great beginning of almost this summer season with June 21st coming up on us. And today, as usual, we're bringing you some unique people, some unique guests, and some unique thoughts. We have a gentleman here that we're bringing with us that came to us by our friend of the Lean Nation, Paul Akers, if everybody remembers Paul Akers. Sam Carpenter. And Sam Carpenter is on the 3rd edition of his book, and it's a winner of the New York Book Festival Best Nonfiction Book. And the book is entitled, we'll put it up on the screen here, the book is entitled Work the System, The Simple Mechanics of Making More and Working Less. And you can see here how to reach out. You can go to workthesystem.com. I advise everybody to check that out after the show. And you can purchase the book as well at vibco.com, Lean Nation Bookstore. And I'd like to welcome our guest here, Sam Carpenter. Sam, welcome.
Hey, Carl. Thanks for having me.
What I'd like you to do, Sam, it's always a little bit more profound that you can tell us a little bit about yourself, because generally you get introduced and people miss the stuff, and I always like having our guests tell me a little bit about Sam and what Sam's all about, your values and characteristics.
Values and characteristics. Well, I could probably do that in a couple of minutes. So I'm this business owner on the West Coast, Bend, Oregon, and I have a call center. Technically, it's called a telephone answering service, and we handle emergency calls for people. Kind of a private 911. And in that business, I had an insight about 13 years ago that changed my nightmare life into just the life I want. And I had spent a decade and a half working 80 to 100-hour work weeks, and no money, single custodial parent of 2 kids, and my life was horrible.
Yeah.
What the book is about is what I learned in that little journey. And I was 35 when I bought the business, and I kind of got my little mini enlightenment when I was 50. I'm 63 right now.
You look great, Sam. You look great.
Thanks. The vision, the little mini enlightenment that I had has affected my health and my relationships, as well as taking business, the same business. I've had the same business now for pushing 29 years. That same business that was killing me, now I work 2 hours a week and I have more money than I need, yeah. If that's possible. And then I'm very healthy, and I've got my relationship straightened out. It all came from one insight that I had, and that's what the book is about, is looking at life a little bit differently and being able to sort out the chaos, because most business owners, and the people in the lean community, of course, understand this, but most business owners out there are living in chaos. And sights, sounds, and events swirling around. And life is tough. Not enough money, personal relationship problems, but especially the work and the income from the business is not good, very typically. So we have, I have the book, and then I have a product called the Work the System Academy, an online product, and then we group coaching, and our one-on-one coaching is pretty cool. We're going pretty much out of the United States, where there's actually growth, working in India and Canada and Bulgaria, of all places, and that's what we do today. And I have various business partners. I have 5 different businesses, and I have a nonprofit in Pakistan. And I did a show with Paul, not only on the business, but another show on the nonprofit over there that we run, which is kind of interesting.
So you sound really fulfilled, that's for sure, Sam. You know, we all go through life and we wonder, what is our purpose? And I think maybe your book is giving us a higher sense of our purpose and maximizing on our personal performance.
Right, and you know, people want to say, well, Sam, you got everything. In a sense, I do, but I still have my ups and downs. Yeah. I still have my bad days. But I'll tell you, having more money than you need and all the time that you want sure helps get over those rough times. So I'm not sitting here like some kind of guru who's discovered the ultimate bliss, but it sure is nice if you have a business that you don't have to be there, and it's producing a lot of money. That's really nice, and I think most people out there who would say, well, that's good enough for me. I'll work out the emotional stuff or the other stuff, the stuff the earthquakes that come along. I'll work that out, but it will be easier to work out if I have enough time and enough money. And that's what my book is about.
So Sam, if you have all this extra time, you must have a good team there, and I'm sure the principles that you practice yourself, you probably more than likely help your team practice these same principles as well. Is that a good assumption?
Yes, that's correct. However, my team gets this, and I use the term "get it" quotes a lot. The first part of my book talks about how to have this little enlightenment, and everybody here gets that, and I don't have to hound. I don't have meetings at all. It's all done. Everything's done point of sale through some very high-tech voicemail and email communications. We work on the systems of our communications, for example, and every person in the office works on the processes that equal the results. And all I do is R&D and make sure the direction is maintained. And my 2 hours a week consist of coming in and having a staff meeting if I'm in town, and we just have a good time. We don't talk much about business, but hey, we're all a team. All my 10 managers come in my office here. And then the other thing is I pay the bills. We do about $250,000 a month, and some of that goes out, obviously, and I want to be the one to control that. So I've honed things down to the bare essentials, the lean thing, and that's how my life is lived. And I hang around here in the office working on the book. I work a lot. I work on the my consulting business partner job,
Right.
and I hang out here more than 2 hours a week.
Hang on 1 second, Sam. I keep losing audio here, Ed. It keeps going in and out, drifting on audio.
His audio or yours?
His audio.
His audio will drift when you go on to this one here.
Okay. All right, Sam, I'm sorry for that. I just want to make sure that our listeners can hear this, because it's key things, because as a president, speaking around the globe in the U.S., that the first thing, if you're at a cocktail reception, meet and greet, whatever it is, an elevator, an airport, is everybody's feeling overworked, overstressed, and they're not maximizing their human potential. You talked about that you were a single parent running this business, working 80 hours, and you have a duty to the people that work for you. You have a duty to your children at home, and you also have a duty to yourself, and if you do have a spouse, to that person as well. So you're dissecting this to give us a higher sense of purpose and getting us to refocus. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that compelled you, I'm sure, to write the doggone book.
Let's talk about the crux of this, and I can explain it, I think, pretty well in 2 minutes. Okay. So most people go through life. Well, let's just isolate it to a business. Just so I don't get bored, I tell it in different ways. Right. But let's just take a business. So we have a business owner, and he goes into the business in the morning, and there's fires to kill all day long. This isn't going right. This isn't going right. And this business owner looks at his, let's say it's a male, looks at his business as a swirling mass of sights, sounds, and events. Right. And I use the analogy of whack-a-mole. You're whacking the moles, and they keep coming faster and faster. And we get very heroic about being good at that. And we're working 80 hours a week, but aren't we a hero? Nobody cares. Nobody cares that you're a hero, and it's going to kill you. And that's what was happening to me. So here's the deal. So anybody who's at work today or anywhere else from home, they had to get there. They took a series of linear steps over time. Drove a car, rode a bike, walked. 1 led to 2, led to 3, led to 4, over 5 minutes or over 2 hours. And this is a perfect illustration. There was a linear set of steps, either 5 steps if you want to just do it in a gross way, or every single step, 100,000 steps. But these steps happened over time, and the last step equaled a result. And for instance, me getting here this morning, I went through all those steps. I wasn't thinking about it, but I got here, and I'm sitting here now. That is the result. And every result in a business was preceded by a system. And I don't care whether it's how you answer the phone, or how you do a sales pitch, or how you interview a new account or interview a new employee. Every result you want was preceded by a system. And what my people do here is, if I had this on a flip chart, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 equals a result, I would be circling the 1, 2, 3, 4 and say that's where my people spend every day. Every minute of every day there. Most people spend their time shuffling around the bad results of unmanaged systems. Well, let me put this in a nutshell. Most people don't manage the systems that produce the results, and so the results are random and therefore bad. Successful people, whether they realize it or not, and if they read my book, they do realize it, successful people spend their time managing the processes that lead up to the results, therefore making the results what they want them to be. So they're managing the processes to get the results they want. That's what the systems mindset is to back down a layer lower and work on the machinery that produces the results up above.
But to get systems and processes and get your whole team engaged to understand this, that you're playing more offense than defense. Whack-a-mole is defense. You're playing offense, right? You're playing offense. It takes an enormous amount of work for you to be reflective enough to say, okay guys, today's a new different day and we're going to start playing offense. But to structure those systems, you just didn't cut off 50, 60, 70, 80 hours of work. You wean yourself off this as one system becomes good and another one and another one and another one. Am I correct?
Correct. You take your systems, you take the worst one first, and you've got to do documentation. That's a big piece of this. Sorry about that, boring, but every big successful business is documented. Every small struggling typically is not. So you take your biggest problem, you document how it works, you get with your people, and it might be a step 1 through 50, steps 1 through 50, and you take your best heads, you look at that, you sit at a table, you go through it. Hey, we shouldn't do step 13. That's not necessary anymore. And somebody else will say, no, I do this instead. And all your good heads, maybe 3 or 4 managers, for instance, that were around here, we all agree on the best process. And it might be how to answer the phone at the front desk. We all agree on the perfect way the process should be executed. And then we say, and then we all agree it will be executed this way 100% of the time. And we've done that with almost 400 systems in here. Everything from answering the phone to how we do a sales presentation. We're always working on the process. And whenever something goes wrong, we go back to the process and tweak the process so that bad thing doesn't happen again. And can you handle every kind of earthquake or road bump that comes on? No, you can't. But you know what? You can handle 98% of them. And late that night when I got that insight, I won't go into the details, but I asked myself, if I got all the separate systems in my life that do perfectly, including the systems in my business, would my business and would my life be perfect? And I'm here to tell you, yes, that's true. Within the business anyway, if you have all the parts working perfectly, you will have a perfect business. And that means a 30 or 40% bottom line, and it means you don't have to be there. That's my definition.
Right. Okay. And so when you had this epiphany, how many years did it take you to get to the point that you're at now, Sam? I'm sure it was multiple years. It didn't happen overnight, because you talk about this. There was a blog that I picked up that, talked about people, you being a check bouncer, and then one summer at the age of 23 quitting recreational drugs. I don't know, you might have had a better life if maybe you didn't quit them. But I'm just teasing, Sam. But it was some time frame. What was that time frame, and how did you had to have mentors along the way too. You didn't just dream this up yourself, right?
I did actually. I dreamed up the 3 documents that we use in one 2-hour session lying in bed at 3 in the morning. Between 3 and 5 in the morning, I realized this, and here's the real bottom line crux. Lives are not a seething mass of confusion, sights, sounds, and events. What our lives really are, if you really have the correct viewpoint of your life, and this isn't namby-pamby Pollyanna stuff, positive attitude stuff. This is how life really is, and anybody can look around them right now and see it. Life is a collection of processes, independent processes, most of which work perfectly well. All right? So we take the human body. Hey, I'm sitting here, I'm communicating with you, Carl, and all these listeners out there. And it's this incredibly complex human body that I have and that you have and our listeners have. Think of the billions of cells and the trillions of electrical signals that are going off right now. I'm waving my hands here, right? And I'm able to communicate. 99.9% of the systems of the world work perfectly, but you can't see that until you're able to look around and see that your systems are not connected to each other. And this goes against the 60s thing of we're all one, you know, we're all one, and actually that's nice in theory, and on an atomic level that's true, but actually this system of this, for instance, how I'm communicating with you, Carl, right now has nothing to do with my printer over here. It's nothing to do with Shelley out in the front answering the phone. It has nothing to do with anything except that. And the key here is to be able to isolate the systems of the business and focus on those systems independently. Yes, they work together, and they will have to work together, and it all comes together in this thing called a business. But you can't fix your business until you have this conveyor belt coming down with these separate processes, and you're fixing them one by one by one. And yes, that does include documentation, and that does include a bottom-up philosophy within your business where your frontline people, whether they be sales or production or service providers, are passing these SOPs, these working procedures up in written form for management to okay and then send them back down. And just the act of doing that induces a sense of loyalty that's on fire with your people. If your people have a say in how they execute their processes, because after all they're the best ones to do it, you get a loyalty that people will bleed bullets. I mean, it's just amazing. That's part of the reason I don't have to be here, is because everybody gets this. And because our company here, the call center, is so successful, I pay my people about double what they would pay at any other call center. And they're very proud of the fact that we're the #1 answering service in the United States by a variety of statistics, and there's 2,000 competitors. So it's a sense of pride and power, and it's a very nice place to work. Yeah. It's very relaxed.
Well, the passion, they have a sense of purpose, and that's one of the premises for Toyota, is a sense of purpose and engaging people's creativity towards a common goal. Critical. But as you have these processes, there's a mindset change in people that you have to trust. You have to trust. And your organization probably had, do you still have the same people that you had previously prior your Epiphany, or is it a new group of people? Because I've found that organizations are made up of really well-intentioned people, but again, we don't have the sequence, we don't have the processes nailed down, so everybody's kind of doing things in isolation. And the 60s term was that we're all individuals. That we should have our individual right of expression in that. Yes, to a certain extent, but we're part of a bigger system, and you kind of have to flow within the system and find your own uniqueness out of it, right?
That's true. And I don't know quite how to approach that in the time we have. This Alan Watts philosophy, wrote the book in the 60s, talks about we're all one, and everybody is not seeing the world as it really is, and everybody is messed up. I reread the book last week, and it's a horrible book. I mean, it's just a book. And the truth is, he's correct on an atomic level. We can go to India and think about it, but the truth is, we are individuals. And this isn't a matter of glorifying the individual. It's a matter of going to the individual and saying, look, your IQ is good, you're well-intentioned, you're not on drugs. What do you think we should do here? And you know what? These are not unintelligent people. They know how to perform their jobs. And so what I'll do sometimes, or what I used to do, I don't do any more SOPs, but I would hand one down and I said, punch holes in it. Let me tell you a little story. I was on a first class flying to LA a few months ago, and I was with a guy next to me, and he saw my book and he asked me if I wrote it. I said, yeah. And he was a CEO of a hotel chain of 400 plus 5-star hotels all over the world. And he was going to LA to look at a possible acquisition. And he told me some interesting things. And one of the things he said was in light of what I said, what we did, of getting our frontline people excited. He said, our biggest problem is not his biggest problem is really funny, maybe we'll have time to talk about it, but his biggest problem in management was to take a new manager into a new hotel, the restructuring it according to the way they operate, and getting this person, man or woman, to read the documentation, to read the SOPs. We can't get them to do it. And I said, I got the easy solution for you. Write this down. I'm going to solve your problem for you. And I'll tell you what I told him, but he was absolutely floored by my response. And he says, oh my God, you're absolutely correct. Why didn't we see that? And here's what it was. Hand your new manager the big book of SOPs and tell him to punch holes in it. Tell him to fill in the gaps. Here's a red pen. Tear it to pieces. We want us to know what you think. And believe me, this manager will do that. And then the next important step is, once this new manager does it, he knows that he sends this manual with all the red ink on it up to management, and somebody in management actually goes through it and looks at it and makes the changes. And then blasts the changes out to all 400 plus hotel managers. So-and-so down here in Los Angeles came up with some changes, and here they are. And then you note them, and now you've got loyalty. And every manager out there should be able to phone in or email in mistakes, grammatical errors, new ways of doing things, and that's how you get loyalty on the bottom line. These people are not stupid. They're not any more intelligent or less intelligent than you and me, probably, Carl. And what we need to do is access and get them excited. You have to get your front line excited and understand the program and feel that they're included. And it isn't a patting on the butt, or we're going to have fun day, right, or let's bring a comedian in and entertain anybody, or let's take everybody to Hawaii for a week. It's none of those things. It's just asking them for their feedback on the jobs they do, and they will absolutely. I don't know how to put it into words how excited people can be when they actually understand that their input is being listened to. So there are two elements here, and you almost have to create a separate department to make sure it works. But I'll tell you, the passion on the front lines goes to the stratosphere when you do that.
Did this operator of the hotel group, did you ever follow up with them? Because what you're really doing is, back in the schoolyard days, when you and I were maybe playing baseball, playing soccer, lacrosse, basketball, do you want to sit on the bench and feel like you're sitting on the bench? Or do you want to feel like you're a valuable member of the team, even if you sit half the game on the bench, that people are interacting, they're asking your opinion, they're getting feedback. So asking the managers to blow holes in the SOP, what a great strategy, because you're valuing their input. Great strategy, and I hope he took that advice and did it.
You know, I gave him a book, and I don't know. I've been so busy. I suppose if I was a good sales guy, I would have followed up, and I should have, but I didn't. I'm guessing that he's made some changes.
Yeah. So you talked to a lot of different people, talked to a ton of different people. And, you know, just like Paul, Sam, and myself, we talk to a lot of people, and we kind of see things in a different light. We've taken a different path with our organizations, with our own personal lives. How frustrated you get when people just don't even want to try. This is like believing in Santa Claus. You got to believe so passionately that Santa Claus is true. He's coming down December 25th. He's coming down the chimney, and we're all going to get gifts. That's the kind of belief that I acquaint all this stuff to.
You know, it's a smattering of results. We get really frustrated with our consulting accounts, even huge companies, where the obvious needs to be done and it's not. Small companies more so. At my website, workthesystem.com, though, if our
I'll put that up here. I'll put your book up here so they can see the website. Go ahead. Tell us a little bit about that working system.
Workthesystem.com, in the lower right corner is a little thing that says Work the System Testimonials. And these are people that have just gone off the book and changed their lives. But it is very frustrating to go out there into a company on a consulting job, and there's just such dysfunction even on the very, very largest companies. Not all of them.
Yeah, no.
I don't want my consulting accounts to think I'm talking about them necessarily, but we've had some really interesting visions out there in the real world. Large companies that have a tremendous market and they're selling a lot of their product have a lot of room to tolerate waste. And it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch inefficiency on a business that's doing, $7 million a month, and you just know the word I want to use, they're blowing away $1 million a month just in pure smoke, inefficiency, and it's not gaining them one thing. It's horribly frustrating to watch. And I know you know what I'm talking about, Carl, and I know Paul, of course. Paul and I go climbing and skiing and flying together, and we talk about it all the time. Paul and I say to each other, we're the only ones we know who could, at any time, at the drop of a hat, take off for a month and everything would be fine. So you really got to get good at this lean stuff, this work the system stuff, if it's going to work. I really would ask our viewers to go to workthesystem.com and get on my mailing list. I send out a little 1 or 2 minute video every 3 days. We have some big event coming up. Shows up. It's not spam. It's good stuff. Get on the mailing list, and you'll get to find it. So the Work the System site has been set up as an information portal. It's very simple. Yep. In fact, the epigram of my book is Occam's Law. The simplest solution is invariably the correct solution. And so the website is just full of good stuff. The FAQs I'm particularly proud of. And there's a video on the front page that tells about it, and it can go into more depth in what we're talking about today, Carl.
So, we have listeners out there listening, and I'm sure we have a lot of CEO presidents, COOs that listen in. And you sent Linda and I the book. I perused the book, but as I started reading more and reading your blog on Work the System, I said, this is a book that I have to read because there's something in here that Sam's trying to tell me, because I'm fighting all the same demons that you had, right? And how would any one of us, how would we best be served to get maximum mindset change with the book, with your website? What would you recommend for me to do? What would you recommend for me to do today?
I would go to the website. You can download the book, even the audio. You can download both for free.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. The hardcover book is very nice.
Yeah. We'll put that up on the screen again. So I can download an audio and listen to it, because that's a lot easier too for people sometimes. But you talk about reading though too. You talk about the value of reading. You talk about the internet, that we're getting these quick blurbs, and then we think that that really infuses this mindset of firefighting, because we're forest fighters going out and hitting hot flashes instead of looking at the fire and putting up a fire line to stop the whole thing.
There's a great book called The Shallows, and it talks about, who is the author? I'm trying to think of the author's name. Maybe I'll think of it. But it talks about the internet. We can't think in a linear fashion. We're over here and we're over here. Even the links on a page, we're reading a page and there's links, and you go over here and you go over there. Our thinking isn't lengthy, and the book says, so if you've got a bathtub, the best way to retain the information is a thimbleful at a time. Swallow a thimbleful at a time. That's how you drink the bathtub of information. And reading is therapy. Reading is a process. Reading is a system to get us to slow down and be able to focus. Because a lot of people, CEOs especially, they're in this and you know who you are out there. They're in this mode of killing fires, and they can't do one thing for more than 10 seconds at a time. And it carries over into the family. It carries over in everything. We're going here and we're going there. And reading for an hour a day, a book, typically, rather than a magazine or a newspaper. Find a good book and just read the book. It's therapy and it's fun. I read a lot of nonfiction, but lately I'm reading more and more fiction. And I'm able to have my thought process go so I can focus on tasks. And because I'm not fire killing around here, I can actually do what I do best. And that's interviews and writing and having a quick meeting with my staff and doing R&D and so forth. and working with a big client and a consulting gig. So I know most of the CEOs out there are getting what I'm saying, and it's just the culture. It's the TV, it's the internet, it's the smartphones, and the counteractive force for that is reading.
So that's one piece I picked up. I'm going to get some things off of your website. So should I read the book or should I audio listen to the book?
Either way, it works just the same. I did the recording, and I think I did an okay job. I'm not a professional reader, but that is me, and I've had a lot of people say that works. You know what I do, Carl? I think if even before I start reading the book, I go to the FAQs on the website and read through those, and that kind of works. I spend a lot of time over a long period of time, and of course what we do with our systems here is we tweak, and I'm getting ready for the 8th printing of this, and I wish I had my working copy here, but I've got hundreds and hundreds of changes I've made in the book, grammatical changes. The story didn't change, but every time I do a printing, the last printing, when I went into the 3rd edition, I had, it's going to be hard to believe, but I had 7,000 changes in the book, little changes.
Well, you hone the book so people can understand it. You get the message more clear, more succinct, and a little bit narrower and deeper on each specific point.
It's called Constant System Improvement, and now we're to Japan and Toyota and Edward Deming. I didn't read any of Edward Deming until I had written my book, or Timothy Ferris or any of the other people. I kind of isolated myself. I had this vision, and I worked it. It took, you asked earlier how long it took. It took me 5 years to figure this out and to do it, to make a change to my company where I was only working a couple hours a week. But in the middle of that, I had a lawsuit that I know took up 3 of those 5 years. I had a minor partner that wasn't working out, and I had to litigate to get my stock back. If I had to do this again with the same company, I would do it in less than a year.
Wow, that's quick.
100 hours a week to 2 hours, and the profits would skyrocket in 1 year. And that's what we do for our consulting accounts. We have one account here recently, one of our consulting accounts, $200,000 a month, small company, right? $200,000 a month, they had no bottom line. And it's amazing. I see businesses with $2 million a month with no bottom line. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We took this business and we put 50 grand a month on the bottom line in 45 days.
ROI on that investment is huge. And as you scale that out, that's just phenomenal for that, scale of a company. That's big dollars.
We're trying to buy companies because what they paid us was, we should have got a piece of that. That's a personal problem. We're trying to buy small companies, and we would just like to fix them and take the entire bottom line. And we're working with the banks, companies that are in trouble. We can get them for a song and a dance, and it doesn't matter what kind of company it is. It doesn't matter. There's got to be potential in it. We're not interested in restaurants or real estate or those kind of things. Service businesses are good. Manufacturing businesses are good. We were able to go into any company and fix it in no time at all with this methodology. And I'm boasting here.
And rightfully so. You have a lot of skin in the game. But let me ask you this question. And the question is kind of big, that I know you're giving back in Pakistan with the earthquake and doing some things there. What are you doing in your neck of the woods on the West Coast to help the public sector, the municipalities, the cities, the towns, the states? Because their systems, if you've ever gone in to look at them, are just in chaos. And are you doing any outreach in that area? Because we don't have a strong community, Sam. You, Paul, I, all the people listening on the radio, whoever we are that are trying to control our circle of influence and circle of concern and trying to make it stronger and exercise good prudence in this, it's all going to fall apart if we don't have a strong U.S.
I have 2 ways to answer this. On one side, it's so hopeless that we don't even bother.
Really?
Yeah, it's so hopeless we don't even bother. However, I have been preparing to run for U.S. Senate here in Oregon for some time, and I haven't decided if I'm going to or not. That's the way you fix the government. You get inside of it and do it. I don't have time to beat my head against the wall with the locals here or the state of Oregon. I pay 60% of my taxes. At this point, I'm just annoyed with the whole thing, and there's very little I can do to fix it. So what I'm trying to do is help entrepreneurs and people who I can actually help. And I know this is a pessimistic attitude, but that's my attitude. is that until we get some kind of a sea change, probably headed up by a disaster of some kind, an economic disaster, you're not going to see any changes. And I just try to stay away from it. Maybe that's not a very patriotic way to be, but if I do run for Senate, that's damn patriotic.
Right, right.
I haven't decided yet. And Paul, of course, ran for Senate a few years ago, lost the race, but that was his way of getting inside too, and he was an inspiration to me. He's in Washington State. I'm down here in Oregon.
Yeah. So in Oregon, do you know John Bernard?
No, I do
send
not.
you a link to John Bernard, who's doing a lot of stuff. He's a passionate, lean, operational zealot like yourself, Paul, and a lot of us. We're just a few of many thousands of us that we really need to connect. And we really need to strengthen our communities through business, and then the people that have the stomach to do the public sector, to invite them in. It's easy for you concurrently, Sam, as you help your businesses in Oregon area and around, to start inviting the public sector people and the townspeople to come and just observe. And then it's really no skin off your back. It's to come and look. And as those seeds get planted, they'll come out and reach out for you. To try and go after them is impossible. But let's be inclusive, just like we talked about, you know, sitting on the bench, or the guy you were flying with to LA. Here's the play, but here's the SOP book, blow holes in it. How great would that be for a public official to do that? Here's our regulations and reform. Blow some holes in it. I'd love for that day to happen.
I met with the city manager here about a year ago, and he was going to include me in everything. Of course, that's chaos, and I never heard from him again. I didn't try too hard. It just frustrates me. You're right, though. What you're saying is right. Maybe I ought to get over my frustration. I think what frustrates me even more than the public sector, and it's a cause of the public sector, is fellow entrepreneurs who are being taxed at a 60% tax rate. That really annoys me, that the money is going, we don't have to get into the politics, I guess, but I want to help these people that are struggling to make, to get up into the rate, to the 60% tax rate, and then go beyond it. They need help too, because they're the ones producing the jobs. They're the ones producing the jobs that are creating value. And what this all comes down to, Carl, is on planet Earth, are you creating value for others or are you not?
Right.
And we know we could get into the public sector, private sector discussion on that. And I want to help people who are creating value.
Yeah. So I'm going to put your book title up here. And in closing, I'm going to go to the FAQs. I'm going to read the book. And then I'm going to give you a report back, because I'm looking to get some more time, because the CEO, the president, whoever, even if you're a group manager that's responsible for people, if you have your downtime, it takes you generally a day to 2 days if you have a week-long vacation just to get out of that mindset, that quick blurb. I'm sure you can disconnect and reconnect very quickly, because I know Paul can. And what a tragedy that is, to waste your own time just trying to disconnect and feel free from all the things that bug you,
Well, I don't live in that place anymore.
I'm proud of you. I'm going to try and figure it out.
For your listeners, as a conclusion, see your life as a V, and your life is expanding outward from the crux of that V, in the bottom of the V down here. Okay, your life is expanding. What if you could change your viewpoint down in the crux of that V, and all your life expands out in a different way? And the crux of that is something our viewers can do right now, and that's look around and see the separate systems of your life. And that's what part 1 of the book is about, is seeing your life as a collection of independent systems. When you can start seeing those systems walking down the street, the tree, the power lines, the cars, as separate, then you can start to get the mindset you need to go into your business and separate the segments of your business into pieces and perfect each of those pieces one at a time. That's your job. That's what you should do all day, is work on the processes, the systems that are creating the results, so you get the results you want. So that's something anybody can do right now. I don't care if they're driving, listening to this, or sitting at home or whatever, or in their office. Look around right now, wherever you are, and see the separate systems. And that's what I walk around with 24/7 now, and that happened 13 years ago to me, and I've never never gone back. Everywhere I go, I see separate systems. And I'm not a crazy guy.
You're a passionate guy. You're a passionate guy. So those are some great things. I'm going to take it, and I love reading in the summer on the beach. So this is the first book, and you know, you hit a chord with me, and people ask just like they ask you all the time. So I'd love to get the DNA out of this and change the way that I look at things, right?
That's it.
So I'm going to put this up, and I'm going to thank you, Sam, for being on the Lean Nation today. And Lean Nation, reach out to Sam. Check out the book. Check out his website. I mean, he has FAQs there. He has downloadable stuff. So if it's free, guys, I mean, go for it. Take a chance. Think differently. And Sam, over and out.
Thanks, Carl. You're a great host. I appreciate it.
No worries.